In the previous lecture, we managed to react with a command to a particular event using the event to command behavior that exists inside of the prism.behavior namespace. Throughout this lecture, I want to complete the functionality for this Redbooks application. All there is left for us to do is, with that selected item that we already have inside of this object, navigate over to the book details page and display the details. Displaying the details is something that we have done before, and it's something that is very easy to do, so I really want to focus on navigating over to the book details page. Before we implemented Prism, the way that we did navigation was to create an instance of a specific page. So if we wanted to pass a parameter, all we had to do was create a constructor for a page that requested a specific parameter. But now the navigation just happens like this. We pass a string, and there is really no way to pass something through this string. We are not initializing anything like we used to, so the way to pass things from one page to another is different. So if you take a look at the navigate async method, you will notice that it has 6 different versions. All this time we have been using the first one, which only requests a string. But notice that one of them, or actually many of them, but the third is the one that we're going to be using, requires also a parameter of type iNavigation parameters. So that is what we're going to be doing. All we have to do is right from here, when we already have the details, make a navigation similar to what we did down here, but passing a parameter. So let's go ahead and get the selected item. Basically, the selected item is going to be of type best book. Let me just call this selected book, which is going to be inside of the obj as a list view. Remember that we're binding the entire list view in this case. So let me just add a using directive to xamarin.forms to have access to the list view. And the list view, of course, has a selected item. Now the selected item is of type object, so let me just get this as best book. And just like this, we already have that selected book inside of this variable. All there's left for us to do is to make the navigation passing this variable as a parameter. So how do we do that? Basically, we define a new variable that is going to be parameters. And let me just call this parameter, it's just going to be 1. And the parameter is going to be equal to a new navigation parameters. Navigation parameters is going to be pretty much like a collection, like a list. So parameter is going to have an add method. And all we have to do is add a key value pair. So the key is going to be selected book, and the value, which is an object, so we can pass whatever we want, is going to be that selected book, just like this. And so we're going to be able to perform the navigation in the exact same way as before. Of course, in this case, we are going to be using the book details page instead of this one, so that's the first change that we need. But also, we're going to be using another version of this method, because we're going to be passing the parameter. Now, I am awaiting this call. It's not necessary, but I'm either way going to define this method as async. And there you have it. This is how you will be able to pass a parameter through the navigation service over to a new page. Now, of course, we still have to receive that parameter from the book details page, which, by the way, is not at all what I wrote in here. Let me just change this. So book details page. Of course, this is still going to be handled through the view model. So in this view model, we have to handle that parameter. We have to receive that parameter. And of course, that is going to happen with the help of the key. So we have to receive a parameter that is called selected book. So let me just go ahead and copy this value so I don't make any typos. That is going to be, of course, important. And back in the book details VM, I will need to receive that parameter through an interface that is very similar to the iPageLiceHive. However, this interface has members that just exist like the normal on appearing and the normal on disappearing. The ones that we need now are ones that can receive those parameters. So in fact, they are going to be called differently. They are going to behave pretty much like these two methods, but they are also going to be receiving the parameters. So to this view model, just implement the iNavigated-aware interface. We need a using directive to prism.navigation, and we implement the interface. It also adds two members, one of them when navigated to, one of them when navigated from. So both of them don't throw any exceptions. On the unnavigated to is where we have to get the parameters. So basically we get the selected book by getting from the parameters the one with a specific key, which I have in my clipboard. So there we have it, we have the selected book. All there is left for us to do is bind the selected book over to the details. So the navigation is complete. Before doing anything else, let me go ahead and set a breakpoint in here to check that we have indeed the selected book. And once we are certain that we have that selected book, we can bind everything over to those labels, maybe change one of those labels for an image. So I have one selected item, and I made a typo, that's why this wasn't working. So details. Very important again to pass these values correctly. As you could see, we weren't navigating at all. Let me just try this one more time. I still have the breakpoint over here to get that selected book. Let me select one of them. Now we hit this breakpoint, and indeed the selected book has the author, the image URL, and the title, the ones that we are going to be listing. So there you have it, we have everything there. Now let me go ahead and change one of these to be an image. Let me actually define the image on top. And of course, I will need three properties over here. I am going to define actually the iNotify property changed interface over here. So just as we are used to, we are going to have this event. Let me go ahead and define the onPropertyChanged method, which is going to invoke that property changed event. And I will define three properties that are going to be of type string. So the first one is going to be the book name. The second one is going to be the book author. And the third one is going to be the book URL. Book image URL. Let's call this book image URL. And all of these properties are going to be set once we have the selected book. So the book name property is going to be set to the selected books, which by the way should be cast as a best book, for which we need a using directive. And now the selected book is a best book instead of just an object, so we have access to the title. Then the book author is going to be equal to the selected book.author name, which has the actual string. And the let me actually just use the property instead of the variable. And the book image URL is going to be equal to the selected book's image URL. And so back in the view, all we have to do is bind the image source to that book image URL property. The text of the first label is going to be binding to the book name, and the text of the second label is going to be binding to the book author. So all of these variables, all of these properties will be set when we navigate to this page with those parameters. And of course, we're going to see the details. So let's test our application now that the entire functionality is complete. So we select one of these elements, we can navigate it over to the details, and we see the details here with all of the information. Maybe we can add some margin to the sides and everything, but as you can see, everything is working now. Finally, all I am going to do is implement the functionality for this delete method, which has really nothing to do with Prism, but we do want our application to be complete, so I will create another property in here that is going to be of type iCommand, for which I need a using directive, and this is going to be the delete command. Of course, the delete command will be initialized from the constructor to a new delegate command. And for this, I need another using directive. This one will not need any parameters. I, after all, already have the selected book, which means that what I will do is define over here a variable of type bestBook called selected book. Maybe we could make this a property and bind the property instead of these other properties, but let's just have this selected book in here. And so the selected book, the global selected book is set to this. So my command doesn't need parameters. It does, of course, need the action. So let me just change the name of this method to be delete book. I won't need to check if this command can or not be executed. This should always be able to be executed. After all, we're already seeing the details. And so I will do something very similar to what we did when inserting. We are going to be using the exact same code, except instead of inserting, we're going to be deleting. Let me just add the using directive to SQLite. And so we're going to be deleting the selected book. So there you have it. That is everything that we have to do. Now let me just change this. This is going to be books deleted. And I want to change this to book deleted and, well, deleting the book. Okay, so basically just the same functionality. Now all I have to do is this delete command, bind it over here in the toolbar item. So this is going to be binding its command to the delete command. So there you have it. Let's just try this out, try the entire functionality actually for this application. So we see that everything is working. We can navigate over here and search for a bad book, select the book, save it. It was successfully saved, go back, we see it in the list. If we select it, we navigate over to the details. I in fact did add a margin in here. And if we delete this, we see that the book has been deleted, and if we navigate back, it's no longer there. So there you have it. The application is working correctly, all of the functionality is there, everything is working the way it's supposed to. The application in itself is not precisely exciting or something very complicated, but throughout this section you were able to implement that functionality using Prism.